Good evening to you tuned in to Smart24 TV. Thank you very much for joining us. This is Business Today. I'm Rona Nahabwe with Winnie Wiinza Nakauchi on the sign language interpretation. Before we head right into it, here's a quick look at what made the headlines.
In Business Today, oil-rich East African nations have been asked to adopt a clear approach to the energy transition. Telecom sector, UN Capital Development Fund unveil application interface for efficient digital services. And Energy Ministry, UNBS, launched a calibration campaign to track fuel adulteration. 1,205 fuel outlets failed test.
Welcome once again to Business Today. It's now time for the news in detail. And now let's begin with the regional oil and gas sector. The global energy transition necessitates a shift from fossil fuels to renewable energy sources. However, it is crucial to address energy poverty and promote economic transformation in the East African nations rich in oil and gas resources. Second day of the East African Petroleum Conference, exploring how responsible petroleum exploitation can be driven to socio-economic transformation.
The Minister.
Private financing is a critical element for the successful execution of oil and gas projects. Nevertheless, there is mounting pressure on the financial institutions to cease funding such ventures due to advocacy for energy transition. It is undeniable that oil and gas activities contribute to greenhouse emissions, a leading factor in climate change.
In 1928 and the 70s, the global oil spectrum was dominated by what we call the seven big sisters. The Essos, the BPs, the Shells, the Chevrons, and whatnot. But with the realization by governments that oil is too important to be left to the market, we have seen the growth of new seven big sisters, led by Saudi Aramco, Petronas, Petrobras, PDVSA, Iran Oil Company, and Sinop.
Experts in the energy sector within the region have discussed the optimal approach to address energy trilemma, which encompasses energy security, equity, and environmental sustainability. The objective is to establish a forward-looking perspective for the future of oil and gas while ensuring affordability and reliability for all.
At the national level, at the regional level, and also at the international level, there is enough support, because we cannot also ignore the risks associated with the energy transition. The energy sector, it's global. These are global projects. One country cannot develop their energy resources. You need the partnership from different foreign countries. You need financial institutions. So we need the support at the national level, regional level, and international level. So as we are progressing, let the countries that feel like, if you feel you still need oil and gas, you should have all the support, the financial support. And also, let's not forget about the legal risks associated with the energy transition, or even the legal risks associated with extracting fossil fuels that are impacting various oil companies, international oil companies. So at the national level, how are you going to mitigate this kind of risks?
If you stop these energy developments right here in this country, that would be a test case on how you move to stop energy development across the African continent. So if you here thinking that it's just a Uganda problem and a Tanzania problem, no. They're coming for you next, because this is now the new battleground for stopping energy development. I don't know what we get in Uganda. So
the Russia-Ukraine conflict that started in February 2021, and the outcome of that conflict was a sanction on Russian oil and gas supplies to the global market. And that took about 10 million barrels of crude oil per day out of the market. And so it's important for us to understand what was the outcome of a sudden removal of 10 million barrels of crude oil from the market. And in summary, the outcome was a reversal of energy transition. I think, as my dear colleague here, Dr. Nalole, has mentioned,
the recent monthly oil market report from Paris-based energy watchdog, global oil demand is projected to reach an average of 102.2 billion barrels per day, which is 2 million barrels per day higher than that in 2022. In 2022, Africa's oil demand averaged at 4.36 million barrels per day, as stated by the Nigerian National Petroleum Company. Given concerns about inadequate energy transition, it is evident that Uganda and its neighboring countries cannot avoid the exploration and utilization of their resources.
If we take the gas out of Tanzania and across Africa, if you produce all of that gas, produce your fossil fuels, your greenhouse gas emissions would increase by 0.67%. That's nothing. That's nothing. Those stats are from the IEA and the UN itself. Your greenhouse gas emissions would increase by 0.67%. So the question is, where is the fuss?
Uganda has granted a final tender to Total Energies to construct a 3.5 billion oil pipeline through Tanzania, creating a path towards the development of the pipeline, which will facilitate the transportation of the country's crude to international markets. The project has been celebrated by President Museveni as a significant economic driver for the impoverished landlocked country. We reached out to the Tanzania Ports Authority to discuss their preparedness to handle the shipment of the oil vessels from Tanga to the global market.
We are going to increase the number of farm tanks that are going to store oil, so that when this is offloaded from the vessels, they can quickly be taken to the destinations. All this is to make sure that the business operations is as smooth as possible, because with the smoothness of this business, automatically we'll be able to lower down the cost. Because if we become inefficient as the port, the final consumer is the one who is going to be affected.
Africa's exploration and production sector has witnessed increased investor interest as stakeholders aim to unlock the vast potential of the continent's hydrocarbon resources, which include over 125 billion barrels of proven crude oil reserves and 600 trillion cubic feet of natural gas. Heading on to the API architecture, telecom experts and the United Nations Capital Development Fund have launched an open application programming interface to support and accelerate digital financial inclusion. Chris Badiomusi, the Minister of ICT, National Guidance, says that to leverage on technology and innovation in a quest to drive financial empowerment is a smart approach towards financial inclusion right from the grassroots.
I would like to invite the MD, Amcor and Airtel.
Telecom experts and the United Nations Capital Development Fund, UNCDF, have announced the launch of an open application programming interface API initiative that will grant innovators easy and secure online access to integrate their businesses with mobile money platforms, making it easier for them to offer payment services to various value chains. Chris Bariomusi, the Minister for ICT and National Guidance, says that such initiatives will deepen financial inclusion in the country.
On an event like this, where we come to launch and open the open APIs, you continue to deepen areas of financial inclusion and also provide all of us an opportunity to do all these transactions. At one point, there was a report saying that the money we hold on mobile money accounts, I think it still remains true, was more than what is held in the commercial banks, showing you this kind of revolution which has come
According to Airtel Mobile Money Limited Managing Director Japheth Aritho, an API enables different systems to communicate to one another effectively, easing business processes, and that it will offer services that can enable merchants to transact with the respective customers in a safe, instant, and secure way.
These APIs, for me, is what has been lacking for us to deepen financial inclusion. Today, a VSLA, which was putting money in the boxes and doing all the things that they are doing, can digitize their payment, and through this simple interface, members can contribute to the VSLA. VSLA can be able to pay the members. So in a nutshell, we have actually removed that barrier that has always been there to connect to the last mile. And the enablers for me is the fintechs, whom I have said we have them in Uganda in thousands, and they have been knocking our doors every single day.
But there are those in danger of being left behind. So when we talk about building an inclusive digital economy, when we work with the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance, when we work with Airtel, we are very proud of initiatives like these that are actually geared towards reaching these last mile communities, because then we are truly being inclusive.
In Uganda today, the vast majority of APIs are private and only available to third parties at an exorbitant cost. Minister Baryomis notes that government has been putting aside 20 billion shillings annually for ICT-related innovations, and that government intends to increase this fund.
The ministry will be providing like 20 billion shillings annually, but we intended to increase that amount of money. But money per se is not the main issue. The main issue should be the drive, the desire by those who are experts in the area of IT to just be creative, and the resources can be mobilized both from within the government but also from the private actors. There are resources which can be used to help innovators come up with all these innovations and creative platforms.
UNCDF's partnerships with telecoms is part of its flagship programs to drive the growth of inclusive digital economies, fostering inclusive innovations to deliver affordable services to low-income communities in Uganda, such as smallholder farmers, women refugees, among others. Bedson Mumbere, Smart24 TV, Business Today.
Heading on to oil again, and in this regard, the oil market standards, with over 80% retail stations failing the calibration tests, the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development, as well as UNBS Standardization Body, have launched a nationwide calibration exercise of retail fuel stations in the country to ensure accuracy in fuel dispensing and protection of consumers from fraudulent fuel sales. Stakeholders have stated during the engagement that they pay excessive rates of roughly 8,000 shillings for every 5,000 litres, and they have requested UNBS to look into this.
As part of its responsibility to protect consumers, the government established the fuel marking program. This will ensure that all fuel intended for domestic use is tagged at the border crossings. The program also contains mobile testing vehicles that are used to conduct spot samples, test the quality of fuel at all fuel retail stations, and check and calibrate fuel pumps to guarantee the reliability of measurements and the best possible value for consumers. In order to prevent additional vices like smuggling, fuel marking is putting into practice a program to make sure that the fuel in the nation satisfies the required quality standards. The oil marketing businesses launched the fuel marking program in the early 2000s in an effort to combat fuel smuggling following the discovery of increased sector competitiveness. New technologies have been developed over the years. However, stakeholders have highlighted a number of concerns about the cost of fuel calibration, including high prices paid per litre.
We're supposed to get an inspector. Do you have enough manpower for each station that's going to be calibrated to employ UNBS inspector?
Calibration of equipment, especially for the lab. I don't know if the metrology department has this service, because as for quality control of fuel, the equipment that we have, yes, we have suppliers who help us come in and calibrate, but there's a challenge with the frequency. I don't know if this service
and measures rules testing and stamping rules of 2007 gave the rate of 8,000 shillings for every 500 liters. Now, that is okay as long as you are working on tanks to the tune of 100,000 liters. When you exceed those volumes, the rate becomes so big, the fees become unmanageable. So we are now calling on the stakeholders for engagement so that we can get proposals and see how we work on those fees to improve them.
30% of the fuel was adulterated when Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development and UNBS began the fuel quality monitoring program in 2000. Peter Kitimbo, the UNBS principal analyst and the fuel marking program's field supervisor, disclosed during the engagement that the program has significantly decreased fuel adulteration in the nation to less than 1% and calibrated with high compliance from the oil firms.
It was, when we began, it was at the level of 30% non-compliance. We have managed to reduce that compliance up to 0.6% and compliance, which means we have done a great work in terms of controlling adulteration. Not only adulteration, even dumping and having smuggled products, because our country is a landlocked country and other products are passing in. And these transit products are not marked. They have not paid tax. So they used to find themselves here by dodging tax, but we are managing also to cover that vice within the supply chain.
Is still good. We are still operating above 99% compliance, actually 99.6 from the report that even we received today. And that compliance rate has been up there for about 5 years. World over, the best world practices, the compliance rate is between 98.5 to 99.9 point there. So our rating is really high. We are among the
calibration exercise aims to ensure that fuel pumps dispense the right amount of fuel as indicated on their meters, as conducted by UNBS with the support from the government. According to UNBS, out of the 1,500 retail fuel stations tested so far, only 295 have passed the calibration exercise, while 1,205 have failed. This means that the majority of the stations were found to be dispensing less fuel than what customers paid for. Government's effort to ensure accurate fuel dispensing comes amid concerns about the quality of fuel sold in the country, as well as complaints from motorists about fuel shortages and high prices. The calibration exercise is seen as a step in the right direction towards restoring consumer confidence in the retail fuel market, serving as a reminder to fuel station operators to ensure that their pumps are calibrated regularly to ensure accuracy in fuel dispensing. Naomi Mtumba, Smart24 TV, Business Today.
Now, the Speaker of Parliament has expressed her dissatisfaction with government over its failure to bring all treaties, protocols and conventions before the August House since 2014, despite the fact that they have a significant financial consequence for the country. As a result, the Finance Committee postponed the Mutual Convention Amendment Bill till further notice.
A tax on both diapers for babies and the elderly was included in the recent tax amendment laws that Parliament voted last week. These included the Income Tax Amendment Bill, the Value Added Amendment Bill, and the Excise Duty Amendment Bill, among others. A number of female legislators claimed that this tax was enacted in poor intent and that Parliament should rethink eliminating it.
Diapers, but also talk a little bit about sanitary towels. Diapers have been VAT exempt, and I'm sure that most of you are aware until this year when Parliament passed the VAT Amendment Bill 2023. During the debate on the VAT Amendment Bill 2023, which introduced that there will be a tax on all diapers that are imported to Uganda. The Minister of Finance indicated that government will raise about 2.6 billion from this tax. However, the minister didn't provide any studies on how this will be realized or even research how they go to this. So we think we are part of other female members of parliament and other Ugandans who are concerned about this tax, and we think that imposing taxes on diapers will adversely affect the mother's productive time. You can see we're all mothers, and we also speak for other mothers who are not here, reducing household income and national revenue.
Insensitive move by the Parliament of Uganda. It will be very unfortunate for this tax to go on, and at this moment I would ask members of Parliament to reconsider, because we should be very sensitive to the mothers, the maternal side. My colleagues have highlighted the dangers, the advantages, and it is very, very important that we know the people we represent.
The legislators argue that while it is true that taxes must be paid in order for government to function, a greater emphasis should be placed on reducing tax evasion and corruption, which together cost the nation billions of shillings each year, instead of introducing a tax that would take away a lot from women.
Of recent, you see that there are more women in markets. These women have no time for, like, they are working, they want to put food on table. But now if you say you're increasing tax on things that they use on a daily basis, like Pampers, then diapers, it's not fair. So if we fought corruption and avoided hemorrhage of the funds that we collect from the taxpayers, we wouldn't be imposing such taxes. This NRM government is very insensitive to the mothers, and we are not going to agree. This tax is not researched. There's no clear background why they are imposing this increment. Because
you know that many women at the moment are single mothers and are working very hard to bring food to the table. And what happens? Even they don't have enough school fees, and now they won't have enough money to purchase diapers. And it's unfair. There are so many taxes that are unfair, and we've talked about them. It's not just about the diapers. It's even about agent banking taxes. All these taxes affect women. Only that we concentrated on the diapers, and we also talked about the sanitary pads, because these touch on reproductive health.
Regarding the waste management issue, Honorable Christine Kaya has stressed out that the country needs a proper waste management system of items such as diapers and electric materials instead of overtaxing them, yet they play a fundamental role in the day-to-day lives of Ugandans.
I'm an environmentalist, and I would like to put it that our plan is to come up with proper waste management of diapers, not to reduce the use of this product. Actually, we cannot, for example, go away with diapers the way we cannot go away with the electronics, radios, mobiles. That is how we should place the diapers. We cannot go back to use of nappies.
In a bid to outsource revenue to facilitate the budget, government has introduced 6 bills, among which is a tax on diapers, though women members of parliament have deemed this bad for the mothers of this country. Samlanifa, Smart24 TV, Business Today.
Now, away from that, recently a delegation of Kenyan officials led by the Minister of Energy and Petroleum, Davis Chichi, and members of parliament toured Mahithi Oil Refinery in Kawuku, Wakiso district, and they were amazed by the facility's petroleum handling capacity. The visit is expected to enhance cooperation between Uganda and Kenya with a focus on boosting the region's economic development.
High energy and fuel costs are reported to account for an average 3.2 trillion shillings annually of Uganda's imported petroleum products, in accordance with Bank of Uganda report for financial year 2021-2022, remains a challenge leading to high poverty levels and inadequate infrastructure. However, this can be turned into opportunities through cooperation between countries. Recently, a delegation from the Kenyan government aimed at exploring ways of enhancing cooperation between the two countries in the petroleum industry.
We believe that this is the realization
of the East African economic integration. And I want to say that this will be a major hub for KPC and Kenya in ensuring that the common trade between the two countries and the region will be enhanced using the Mahadi infrastructure.
According to the Kenyan Cabinet Secretary, Energy and Petroleum Davis Chachi, East African countries cooperation is the only way to help countries develop in various industries, as it is not easy to bring goods from Saudi Arabia to Kenya and from Kenya to Uganda, the objectives of these nations.
Kenya will continue to cooperate, we'll continue to work together to make sure we make our economies competitive, because really, if you talk about the issues of climate change, there seems to be focus on utilizing resources out of Africa, and we can see industry coming into Africa to operate because we have great wind, we have great sunlight, and most of our energy is renewable. Uganda is very heavy on hydros, fairly renewable, and therefore, as the developed world crumble with their coal power plants and they move into this economy, we need this kind of facilities to be able to really front support some of the investment that will be migrating into our region.
He emphasizes on the visit to Mahadi oil refinery with capacity of 70 million litres compared to 43 litres capacity of Kenya presents an opportunity to explore ways of reducing the cost of transporting fuel within the region and more employment opportunities.
To support our region, I am sure we will keep our economies competitive to be able to attract those global firms that are seeking least cost destination to basically be their manufacturing hubs, to be their point of call to support the rest of the world. And therefore, as we work together, have the economies of scale, reach out to the world as a manufacturing hub, we should be able to help our people create employment, grow the GDP.
Cooperation between Uganda and Kenya in the petroleum industry presents several opportunities. For instance, reduction of fuel transporting prices, make fuel affordable for the common man, and job opportunities enhancing economic growth. Kenyan MP Vincent Musau says they are looking forward to a strong bond between the two countries, as there are a variety of things they can learn returning to ask their parliament to increase investment in their industries to further develop.
We believe that this facility can grow to make also Uganda strategic to supply products to our friends in Rwanda, DRC, and the rest. And therefore, we see an opportunity for both Kenya and Uganda in this kind of trade relationship.
The East African community should continue exploring new ways of promoting cooperation in various industries to promote economic development, technology transfer, and reduce poverty levels in the region. Bronya Katsime, Smart24 TV, Business Today.
Thank you, Bronya, for that report. Now, that story will usher us into a short break where we will return with more. Stick around.
Smart24, driving business.
The taste of Uganda in a new international park.
It must be rich.
family. He must have a maid because at our home we do not work.
Conductor Masao.
What? Obadde olobye ku ssimu?
Yamunange anti yo TV enkolera.
Nyumirwa omulembe omupya ogujjudde ebisanyusa omuli emikutu gya TV egisukka mu 8 n'egya radio nga kwotadde ne zifirimu ng'osinziirira wonna w'oli. Genda mu App Store oteeke app ya Yo TV channels ku ssimu yo olwo onyumirwe ennaku 3 ng'olabira bwereere ewatali kozesa data. Yo TV channels.
They say that to create drama, it takes work.
That is the question.
It demands dedication and faith.
Hey, Zizinga, that's not your set.
Sometimes you need a helping hand.
Bro, you got this, okay? You need to fix all the discrepancies in your account.
Hey, listen! No, you listen. All I want to do is be your friend.
And other times, the will to keep trying. But who cares what they say when you're born to do it?
Scene 5, take 2.
Watch Uganda in action on Pearl Magic, Pearl Magic Prime and Pearl Magic Local. Only on DSTV Uganda and Go TV Uganda.
Just a believe that I killed George.
Shut up.
Stay connected for great stories told the Ugandan way.
Smart24, driving business.
Luxury redefined at Seasan Hotel as you indulge in the splendor of elegant living fit for the royalty that you are. Step into comfort, pampering and blissful customer-centric service as you select from our range of comfy exquisite living quarters furnished to meet with your royal preference. Surrounded by scenic beauty, our tropical setting allows you to escape the glamorous ordeal of city life. Our ambient green gardens will guide you to a place of revitalizing rest. The 3-star restaurant caters to your palate, serving your choice menu ranging from exotic cuisines to local delicacies. Our chefs will serve you full course meals for a truly out-of-this-world culinary experience. Our fully stocked bar to whet your throat, from renowned global brand whisks, brandies, gins, beers and wines to our locally celebrated beverages, you will not lack for any brewage. It's an all-new experience in the East at Seasan Hotel, so visit today at plot 15 to 19 Spire Road, Ginger, or contact us on +256 751 719 960 and +256 785 354 614 for reservations. Seasan Hotels, luxury redefined.
Smart24, driving business.
Welcome back from that short break and thank you for sticking with us. Now moving on with business today, the Speaker of Parliament has expressed her dissatisfaction with government over its failure to bring all treaties, protocols and conventions before the August House since 2014, despite the fact that they have significant financial consequences for the country. As a result, Finance Committee has postponed the Mutual Convention Amendment Bill till further notice.
The Finance Committee has agreed to postpone the consideration of the Mutual Convention Amendment Bill until government has given a committee a complete list of all the treaties, protocols and conventions it has signed with other nations. According to the State Minister on Finance, Henry Musasizi, they agreed to give this bill more time until they are ready with all the treaties government has signed with other nations since 2014.
Madam Speaker,
first of all, do you have them? Have you signed any treaty?
Yes, we have the agreement.
So where are you keeping them?
Madam Speaker, I want to pray for the indulgence of the House that we provide all the information that this bill will be allowed time to provide the information to the committee which they have asked for. We are not withdrawing the bill. We are asking for time to have more interactions with the committee. We present the agreements to them, and then the committee, when it comes to report to the House, all this information shall be provided.
The legislators informed the Speaker that despite numerous requests, they had been unsuccessful in getting the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Finance Department to deliver all the treaties, protocols and conventions.
All the treaties and conventions so that we can select treaties, conventions and protocols that are beneficial to Uganda because they have financial implication in terms of subscription, membership and so on. Up to now, we have not got that list in this House. So will it not be procedurally right for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to bring for us all the list, the entire list of conventions and treaties Uganda signed and ratified to this House? Thank you.
MPs claim that government has negotiated several treaties with over 11 nations in an effort to increase the country's revenue, but to their dismay, these agreements have never been brought up in Parliament.
The information I have is that Uganda has executed tax agreements with about 11 countries, and these agreements have very gross implication for this country. It has been established that these treaties actually erode our tax base and they facilitate profit shifting in this country. And because we have to pass budget the budget on Tuesday, as guided by you.
The Speaker of Parliament has warned the government about this approach and instructed the Finance Minister to bring these treaties before Parliament on Tuesday next week before they deal with the budget issue.
International agreements shall lay before Parliament a treaty, a protocol or international agreement entered into by the government of Uganda within 6 months after it has been concluded. The Committee of Foreign Affairs shall examine the treaty, protocol or international agreement laid before Parliament and shall report to the House within 45 days.
Government of Uganda has signed several financial treaties and conventions with other countries, and these come with far-reaching implications that the legislators want to scrutinize before the Mutual Convention Amendment Bill 2023 is passed. Samlanifa, Smart24 TV, Business Today.
Now, in a bid to gather funds for the restoration of roads and bridges in the Kigezi sub-region that have been destroyed by landslides and floods, the government intends to suppress financing from some sectors in order to gather these funds.
Districts in the region appear to be cut off from one another due to broken bridges and impassable roads caused by recent landslides and floods, making transportation too expensive and difficult for locals to access social services such as education, markets and workplaces. While the government is focusing on rebuilding Kabale Road, the Kanungu district was also severely affected by the disaster, making internal trade extremely challenging.
We are cut off completely. You cannot cross. Even motorcycles cannot cross. Vehicles, those are cut off completely. So we have a challenge. If you want even to travel to Kampala, even to go to the hospital to Kunjiri, you cannot. You have. There is nowhere you can pass.
The other wrong route of the main road from Kanungu to Katojo, then to Kambuga. but this was the shortest route.
As recently suggested by Chris Badiomunsi, Minister for ICT, government is considering to redirect funding from other sectors to boost reconstruction effort in Kabale.
Many roads, especially Maram roads connecting different communities, have also been damaged. Many bridges have been damaged. So government will have to find the money, even if it means suppressing some of the budgets. We shall suppress different votes and provide money to open up these roads, do repairs.
Some of the bridges that were destroyed in Kanungu district were the Chigando Hajbari and Chakire bridges. Mudslides also completely wrecked the Bikomero road that connects Kanungu to Rukunjiri district. Since Chigezi is known for its rugged hills prone to landslides, the locals have been encouraged to plant trees and use better farming techniques to prevent the recurrence of similar calamities.
We shall call upon UNRWA to come and reopen it and also work on it to make it a first-class Maram, but eventually it requires to be tarmacked so that it can remain motorable all the time and we avoid these kind of damages which are caused by rains.
While there may be short-term costs associated with the funding cuts, it is hoped that the long-term benefits of rebuilding critical infrastructure will outweigh these costs. Bronya Katsime, Kate Namgera, Smart24 TV, Business Today.
Thank you, Catherine Namgega, for that report. Now, heading on to the East African Community Economic Report, Dr. Peter, the Secretary General of the East African Community, has said that the economic growth of the East African Community has seen a rapid growth of up to $11.9 billion amid its leveraging to its strength. Peter Mutuku has given his keynote speech on the economic state of the East African Community, and Martha Nimsima has more of this report.
Economic growth of the East African Community has seen a rapid growth of up to $11.9 billion, and this has been reflected in the past 2 years. This has been influenced by factors such as investment, government policies, and regional and global economic trends. However, these growth rates are still lower than the pre-pandemic growth rates. Member states are looking forward to integrating more private sector players into the community to receive more funding, hence boosting development.
Yes, now I've been in the office as a Secretary General of the community. Looking at even the intra-EAC trade, because intra-EAC trade, common customs union, is about movement of goods from one country to another. And looking at the figures for the last 1 year or 2 years, the intra-trade, as I would say, partner states within the EAC have done business for the last 2 years to the tune of close to $11.9 billion. In 11 billion, that tells you that within the East Africa partner states, we are making efforts to make sure that goods move from one country to another. It may not have to be to the expectations. It may not be without difficulties, because non-tariff barriers continue to come in and frustrate the ease of doing business.
Infrastructure deficiencies, including improving and expanding existing roads, railways, ports, and energy supply, poses a significant challenge to the East African community. Francis Kisiwanya, the Deputy Executive Director of Peace of Youth, notes that insufficient infrastructure hampers trade facilitation, limits connectivity between member states, and affects the movement of goods and services.
Look at the East Africa region. Infrastructure is not that well developed. We are still relying so much on roads within the East African region for purposes of trade. Now, this is a challenge because transport on roads is actually very expensive compared to other modes of transport. We could actually have used like rail and water. So this is a problem, and it affects trade. For instance, today, if you wanted to take your goods to Congo, there are almost no roads there, and that slows down the trade. And even when you are able to, it is quite expensive because you pay lots and lots of money in terms of transport. So infrastructure is still a major problem which affects trade within the region.
The commitment made by the partner states of the community to removing existing non-tariff barriers and refrain from imposing new ones is aimed at boosting trade within the region. By implementing provisions of Article 13 of the Protocol on the establishment of the East African Community Customs Union, the partner states seek to create a conducive environment for increased trade and economic integration.
Because when we are talking of expanded market of 300 million people, we must also facilitate or create a climate conducive for goods to be manufactured locally so that we can now be able to meet this market. And for that to be done, then we create the common external tariff, which is basically there to say we are encouraging our local people to manufacture. If you are manufacturing within East Africa, within the common external tariff framework, then you are saying that you are able to compete with the goods that are coming from out. The goods that are coming from out of the region, they will be now 35% more expensive than goods that are manufactured within East Africa. And that is now the essence of the fourth band, which is now the common external tariff. And
continued commitment, collaboration and policy reforms are poised to unlock new opportunities for growth, job creation and sustainable development in the years to come, creating an open and conducive trade environment that promotes increased cross-border commerce, investment and economic development in the East African community. Martha Nimsima, Smart24 TV, Business Today.
Now, the State Minister for Works, and Transport, Musa Ichelu, has directed Uganda National Roads Authority to reopen the Kabale-Kisoro Road for essential traffic flow on the works of the damaged road spot to continue. This road was forcefully closed down by UNRA in order to repair after mudslide destroyed it last week. According to Ichelu, this will impact business relations between Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Southwestern Uganda continues to halt survival in the wake of torrential rains that have washed away roads, agriculture and lives. While in Kabale, the State Minister for Works and Transport, Musa Ichelu, has directed the Uganda National Revenue Authority, UNRA, to reopen Kabale-Kisoro Road for essential traffic flows as works on the damaged spot continue. However, according to the minister, the Kabale-Kisoro Road is essential for businesses and closing it would affect the country and the neighboring countries of Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Come on behalf of the central government to thank these engineers for ensuring that connectivity to the rest of the country and indeed to DR Congo and is restored immediately. So on behalf of government, we are grateful.
Ichelu adds that they will also consider empowering the local authorities to upgrade the status of access roads to secure alternative routes in case similar disasters hit again.
There are bills of quantities modest for working on those roads that pass through the rural setting but are critical for diversion here. And that may not be handled by these people with the limited 3 billion that the government is sending. So Uganda Road Fund will mobilize some small money, say like Rwanda, if say like they said, if we got fuel, worth say like 50 or 100 million, we can be able to do ABC. And
the minister also visited the Hamurwa floating bridge that connects to Hamurwa to the Kanungu district. The same place was submerged by floods, but Ichelu says that this spot will be upgraded as the country prioritizes tourism roads in the next financial year.
We are going to do mainly rehabilitation and maintenance of the existing roads. That is what will take 3/4 of our budget. Rehabilitation and maintenance. But we are going to bring in new projects like this one, this what we call the tourism roads. Those ones are going to be priority for opening up, for upgrading the road now from what you see to tarmac. The tourism roads, particularly in Kigesi, have been emphasized. Kigesi and the Rwenzori.
The Rwanda District Chairperson, Stephen Kasambia, asked the central government to quickly empower them in rehabilitating the access roads since the alternative routes that UNRA suggested to motorists are in a poor state.
The alternative route, one of them is Katuna, Kashasha, Muko. Another one is Kagarama, Hisesero Muko. But I want to convince you, I want to tell you the truth that those alternative routes are not manageable. They are also part of the disaster. The alternative routes also got spoiled. So what I would request them to do is that now that they are thinking of the alternative routes in this period of time, they should maintain the one of Kagarama up to Nyaruhanga.
Chigezi continues to sustain a climate change impact that has now caused a big burden to both government and the different communities. The heavy rains have disrupted travel, tourism, agriculture, and ultimately loss of lives. Nobat Ndiamuhachi, Maseka Tsime, Smart24 TV, Business Today.
Well, that story leads us to the end of Business Today. As always, thank you for the pleasure of your time. But before we close up, here's a look at our top stories.
In Business Today, oil-rich East African nations have been urged to adopt a clear approach to the energy transition. Telecom sector, UN Capital Development Fund unveil application interface for efficient digital services. And Energy Ministry, UNBS, launched a calibration campaign to track fuel adulteration. 1,205 fuel outlets failed test.
And that's all we had for you today on Business Today. I would like to implore you to watch on our YouTube channel at Smart24 TV Live for any of the business stories you might have missed or you're interested in finding out. As always, thank you for the pleasure of your company. I'm Rona Nahabwe with Winnie Wiyinza Nakauch in the sign language interpretation. Good evening.